Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. Today's subject, I'm going to be going over something that's very much opinionated, and it is the most fun abilities in WoW, and this can be in terms of usage, how I find them in terms of just class-wise, how they fit into the class perfectly, maybe lore reasons, many different things make up an ability and make it fun to use and utilise and just have there as an ability. They might not be the abilities that you press all the time, but these are ones that have a certain meaning to you, and everyone will have a different one, but there's quite a lot that I find are really fun and engaging for me, and I enjoy quite a bit. But obviously we'll go over the weekly stuff for Retail WoW. So the world boss for this week is Morgeth, as always, and Mortanis, so that is the Mount Draxus world boss. Collect your anima, collect your conduits, and get that done. The brawl for this week is Deep 6 versus 6, in a battleground setting for Temple of Kotmogu, Silvershard Mines, Seething Shore and Warsong. So it's a 6v6. What you do in that battleground means a lot, so don't slack. Make sure that you show your team what you can do. The mythic affixes for this week are Spiteful, Necrotic, Tyrannical and Tormented. Spiteful, when mobs die, they summon a ad. Make sure that you just run away from the ad, it will die off eventually. Necrotic, this one's for the tanks out there. Make sure you're kiting, make sure you help your tanks out with kiting, because get too many of these stacks, your healer's going to start having a go at everyone for not helping the tank out. Tank's going to have a go at the healer for not healing them when they have an 80% healing reduction. Help out your tanks and healers this week. Tyrannical, the bosses are a lot tougher this week, so make sure that you are compensating for that instead of the mobs this week. And Tormented, you have the 4 more mobs that you can choose to kill or keep alive, depending on if you're feeling adventurous on the last boss or not. And the event for this week is Pet Battles, so you get extra XP for your pets when you do win a pet battle. And it is Hallow's End coming to WoW in this... Is it this coming week? No, it will be the start of next week, the 18th, and it is to November 1st. Obviously, with Hallow's End, it brings the Headless Horseman and a potential mount. It brings all of the Goldshire goods, such as putting the flames out on the inn in Goldshire and the blacksmith. So it's all good fun. Make sure you enjoy Hallow's End while it is around. It's only around for a couple of weeks, so it's one of my favourite holidays, I'm not going to lie. It's really good fun. But let's get into it. So obviously all of these abilities are going to be from different timelines within WoW. Some of them could be from the very start. Some of them, so they could have been introduced since vanilla World of Warcraft. Some of them are from the latest expansion. So we've got multiple different spells. Obviously we'll be going over when it was sort of put into the game. Just a small bit about the ability, as most people might know them, as they are quite impactful abilities, I would say, and sort of why I like it myself. So, Ice Block. Now, Ice Block is such an iconic ability for me. So, being a mage, or a mage main in classic TBC and a few other expansions here and there, Ice Block has been a staple point. It's the I don't want to die right now sort of ability, unless there's a priest, obviously, with Master Spell. So, when was it put into the game? Obviously, Ice Block came in the form of a talent, and the talent was... Was it a talent? Am I getting that mixed up? Cold Snap. It was not a talent. It was baseline, sorry. I'm getting that mixed up with Cold Snap. So it was baseline for mages in Classic, and this has been baseline throughout the entirety of the game. So from Classic to Shadowlands right now, you have always had an ice block as a mage. It makes you invulnerable to all damage, every single bit of damage. The only way that you can be brought out of ice block is with Shattering Throw from a warrior or Master Spell from a priest. Now, ice block just does loads of things, but in terms of it takes off your darts, it makes you invulnerable, you can get healed while in it, etc. You could have 2 ice blocks with Cold Snap, and this was a talent that was in the Frost Mage tree, and what it did was reset the cooldown of ice block. So you'd ice block, Cold Snap, ice block again, and they changed it so that you'd have to wait a 30-second interval before you could ice block again, and you'd ice block, you would get the debuff called Hypothermia, and this debuff would last 30 seconds and it would prevent you from ice blocking again. So that's how they sort of balanced it. You can't just ice block back to back like you could in Classic, which was kind of insane, by the way. You could just waste 20 seconds, and that's what mages would do. That's what mages would do in Battlegrounds. If you were ranking, ice block would be the greatest stalling mechanism that the game has ever had. You would stall for a little bit, say you're at Lumber Mill or something. You would stall, you would go into ice block for 10 seconds, they would start to cap the flag, and what you would do is before the 10 seconds are up, you would come out of ice block, hit them, the people capping the flag, and then go back into your ice block. So you'd have about 18 seconds of just, they can't even hit you. They can only try to capture the flag and stuff like that. And by that time, you should have had reinforcements. So mages were the ultimate stalling force in Classic, and it was great fun. I took that job upon me very well. It was very annoying and obnoxious for people going against it, and that's what I enjoy. That's what I enjoy in PvP. I enjoy being very obnoxious and annoying. It's one of them things. So Ice Block is just, it matches the mage as well. It's very much, or it matches Frost Mages anyway. It's very much, I am encased in a block of ice. What can you do about it? You can't cut through this and stuff like that. So, very iconic ability for me, and one that I knew as soon as I wanted to do this sort of podcast was the first one that I wanted on this list. I knew that that was going to be on the list no matter what. Now, the next one is not necessarily one spell, but several in sort of one category, and it is the Druid forms. Now, Druid forms have always held a special place in my heart, mainly because my first ever solo character was a Druid, and that is the Druid that I'm currently maining on retail WoW. I have a Druid on Classic, so TBC Classic as well, that I have as an alt, and the Druid forms are always something that really, I think that they nailed, because you have one for every sort of situation. You have one for every situation. So you obviously have Moonkin form as a caster, you have Bear form as a tank, Cat form as a feral or a melee DPS, Travel form for running faster, Aquatic form for swimming faster, and you have Tree for, healing. It's sort of, a tree represents life and that kind of thing. It's, all of the forms match what they do perfectly. And it's quite sad to see that tree form isn't necessarily a thing now in retail, but at least it is there in TBC and you get to utilise it, and it is a different play style to how the Druids usually worked in Classic, because many tanks didn't necessarily want to be hotted up, hots being heals over time. They wanted just the healing touches, and you would kind of get sniped in that regard. So the hots in TBC are now wanted because there's no world bus and stuff like that, and this is what tree form excels at, and it really does pair well with this sort of life, and the tree is just perfect for restoration. Druids, everything matches everything in terms of the Druid forms. You're very tanky. Who wants to fight a bear? Let's face it, no one. So Bear is very tanky. Who really wants to fight a pissed off cat? Yeah, exactly, no one. A giant owl? Yeah, I don't think so. It's all very perfect, and travel form being a cheetah or a doe or a deer in retail cases, it's very fast, very agile, can leap and stuff like that. So it makes sense, and it is it's very fitting for what they do, and it's kind of the abilities that I love the most, because you're constantly changing. You're not seeing your player model 24/7 like every other class or every other class. You are constantly changing. You can be a cat, you can be a cheetah, and then you can go back into your normal form to heal and stuff like that. You're constantly seeing something different, and it's very much a nice change to have that. Now, druid forms were obviously introduced at the very start of the game. The only ones that weren't introduced was tree form, and this came in TBC. And yeah, like I said, I've covered everything else pretty much. I like it just because it fits the druidic class very well. Mirror Image is another mage spell. Now, this one was introduced in Wrath of the Lich King, which will be very soon, I hope. So it won't be this year coming, it'll be in the next year. Wait, it might be end of next year or just entering 2023. I'm hoping Wrath of the Lich King comes out. I would imagine it's end of next year though. Mainly because that's sort of the timeline that I think that they'll go on with the phases and stuff. We're already in phase 2 after a few months. So who knows? Might be next year, might be just into the year after. But Mirror Image was brought into the game as a big cooldown for mages, a DPS cooldown. What it would do was it would summon 3 mirror images of your character, an exact replica of your character, by the way, which was cool, because if your character looked cool, these images look cool. And let's face it, you want a gang of your character. You want 4 of your character just spamming stuff behind you. So it was very cool when it was first brought out, and it was used as a massive DPS cooldown. But in the latest sort of expansions, it has become mainly a defensive cooldown. And how this has changed is basically it does less damage. It spams a ability from another school, such as if you're a fire mage in Shadowlands, it would spam Frostbolt to slow the targets and stuff like that. But what it would do is it would reduce the damage that you take, and when you do take damage, one of these mirror images will disappear. So you have sort of 3 charges of it. So it is used as a small defensive cooldown against, say, something like Avatar from a warrior. Something that's going to hit quite a bit, but you don't necessarily feel as if you can trade an ice block for it or anything like that. So very cool. And again, it fits the mages. You sort of, or the mage class, you just split yourselves into 3 other versions, and you're all casting the same sort of class spells and stuff like that. It is very cool, and it's sort of, you're walking into, the best way I can describe it is when you walk into one of them carnival mirror type places. I don't know what they're called, but you see multiple reflections of everything, and there's just loads, and that's how I imagine sort of Mirror Image. You just do that sort of trick on someone's mind, and they've got to find the right one, that kind of thing. Now, this one is very recent, but it holds a really special place in my WoW heart. It's Convoke the Spirits. I went through Shadowlands leveling, and I saw this ability, and I knew I wanted it. This ability is absolutely insane. So it was obviously put into the game during Shadowlands. It is the Nightfade Covenant that you get it from. And what Convoke the Spirits does is it casts 16 spells in 4 seconds. So 4 spells a second. So 0.25 seconds per spell. And you can get a legendary where you cast 12 spells in 2 seconds, which is even better, by the way, if you're doing like PvP. And it makes it 1 minute cooldown. So this can be any sort of assortment of spells from like anything. It's got a set pool of spells, regrowth by anything like that, from cat form, boomkin form, normal form, anything. But whatever form that you're in is what it would generally prioritize as a ability. So if you're in cat form, it would generally prioritize cat abilities. That is if you're in range at the target. If you're in moonkin form, it would generally prioritize damaging spells from moonkin. So Moonfire, Star Surge, Wrath, that kind of thing. If you're not in any form, it will prioritize healing and stuff like that. And it's fun to see so much going on in one spell that it makes it really enjoyable, because you don't know what's going to come out of this spell. You could kill someone in 1 second from 100 HP and through like 20 shields, or you could do nothing and heal them, or heal yourself, you know. I'm trying to joke about that. You could just heal yourself for about 100k just randomly, even if you're full HP. It's one of them things. You don't know what's going to happen with this spell, and that's what makes it so amazing, because it's so random. It's completely different every time. You can just chunk someone to death with ferocious bites in 0.5 seconds. 2 ferocious bites, they're dead. That's it. You've got 1.5 seconds left of this spell just being channeled, doing nothing. And that's what makes it so good. And it's amazing. I don't know, because you've got so many forms for Druid. Convoke the Spirits is everything into this one spell. It is every form into this one spell. You got the healing, you got the cat damage, you've got the moonkin damage, you've got absolutely everything that is piled into this one spell, and it can be all spammed out of the 12 or 16 spells that you pick. Well, not pick, it chooses for you. So Convoke the Spirits is amazing, and it's one spell that I hope that they keep in the game, or something similar, because it's such a unique ability that I don't want it to go. I really don't want it to go. It'll be sad if it does. That's all I'm going to say on it. So enjoy it while you can if you are a Night Fae Druid. Divine Toll is another Covenant ability that has been put into the game during Shadowlands, and this shares some similarities with Convoke the Spirits, but it is a Paladin Kyrian ability, and what it does is it casts Judgment on your primary target and other targets that are within a certain range of it, and you can get a certain conduit that allows it to trigger additional times. And this can allow for, honestly, a one-shot. So it would trigger, so you'd use Divine Toll on a target, and this conduit would trigger. So you can possibly get 3 crits out of this. So you'd crit them for 10k, 10k, and another 10k, and you'd hit them for like a final verdict, and they're probably dead, to be honest, if you've got Wrath up and stuff like that, other people dealing DPS. It's an insane ability, and if you use it from very far away, it looks really cool, because you see these bolts, these like judgment bolts flying out towards the target. Obviously, it's quite rare that you would use it from far away. It's sort of if you need that tiny bit of extra damage, you can just lob it in. You'd generally be using it very close so you can follow up the damage. But the way that it looks, if you are to use this and to get the conduit to trigger, it looks amazing, and it's great fun to press, I'm not going to lie. You can really feel when someone's pressed this ability on you as well, and it sends a sort of urgency within you if you're playing PvP. It's like, oh shit, he's hitting me hard. I've got to do something about this. So Divine Toll is one that is very fun, and it very much gives you a rush of blood if you're in PvP, either if you're going against it or you're the one playing with it. PI. PI stands for Power Infusion. And Power Infusion is great fun if you're a caster, which I am most of the time. Now, Power Infusion has been through so many different iterations in its time. It's going to take quite a while just to go through them all. But mainly it's been used for spellcasters. Mainly. There was a time when I think it just gave haste, so you could potentially use it on a melee, but I think that was around Kata or Pandaria, somewhere around there. It wasn't necessarily in its best place in them sort of expansions. But early on in WoW's history and in Shadowlands, it has been used very well. It was out of the game, I think, around WoD Legion BFA, but it has come back in Shadowlands. And what it does is sort of what it kind of does, the latest iteration anyway, is it gives you spell power and haste on your spells, pretty much. So this is a big cooldown that the priest can utilise on either a fellow teammate or themselves. And if they use it on themselves, they're being greedy, and I don't think that that's allowed. I don't think they're allowed to use their ability on themselves. I think it should be reserved for me, but that's my personal take on it. If they use it on themselves, they're doing it for healing purposes, so that they can pump out more heals quicker and stuff like that. And even DPS priests, shadow priests and stuff, they can utilise it very well. But it's an ability that isn't necessarily one that I've used as, I don't main priest. It's one that I get given by the priest. And when I see my character, have this swirly, light around my feet and going up my character, I know that I've been PI'd, and I know that I can pump some damage, so I'm pressing every button that I can to do more damage. I don't care if I pull aggro, I don't care if I die. It's on the tank. That's on the tank's fault. This is on the healer's fault for giving me PI in the first place. It's great. It's an amazing ability. You feel powerful when you get given the spell, as you can see it around your character, and it's sort of swirling around your character. And that's what makes it fun for me, because it's an ability that I don't necessarily, or I haven't used, because I think I've only ever mained priest in one expansion, and that was Miss Pandaria. So it's not an ability that I've used a lot, but it's an ability that I've gained a lot and made use of a lot. So it's one of them fun ones that I definitely like to see every now and again. Another fun ability, this can go with PI to be honest, is Heroism, or Bloodlust if you're Horde and play TBC. So it was put into the game in TBC, and it's been through very small iterations. Basically, Heroism is Bloodlust and Heroism put together. They just basically called it all the same. It's nothing new. But what it does is a massive cooldown. It gives you an exhaustion for 10 minutes, and for 40 seconds you get 30% attack speed and casting speed and stuff like that. Everything is 30% faster, and you pair this with all of your cooldowns to go for a massive burst of damage in, say, a raiding environment or a mythic environment, anything like that. And you can put out some insane damage when you use this and you pop every cooldown. I remember, if you use Heroism with, say, a Venthyr Druid, and they pop theirs, they're getting more haste, they get more damage, they absolutely pump damage if they're a Venthyr Boomkin, and it's just a great fun ability, because it's, again, not one that I use and have used in the past, it's one that I've gained. And the ones that I gain, I'm noticing now that they are ones that give me power. Very strange that, isn't it? But Heroism is a great one because you can really pump out a lot of damage. I love to see loads of numbers. I love to see my DPS skyrocketing. I absolutely love it all. So Heroism ticks the boxes for me. It's just your character gets angry and it's okay, I've had enough of this. Let's kill this, boss. Let's kill this raid boss, whatever. Or you can pop Heroism in open world PvP and just absolutely blast someone, which again, that would be quite funny to do, not gonna lie, thinking about it. That'd be quite funny. Combust. Loads of people hate Combust. Loads of people like it. There's been different iterations of it. It's been in the game since Classic. And what Combust was in Classic up until, I think, Wrath. Might need to check that one. But around Wrath or Cataclysm, it was changed. The first iteration of it was you would constantly gain 10% increased critical strike chance for every fire spell that you didn't crit. And this is up to a maximum of 3 crits. So you would pop Combustion and you wouldn't crit for 3 spells. So it already has 1 stack. It starts off at 1 stack. So you'd have 3 extra stacks, so it would be 4 stacks of Combust, and you would have a 40% chance increase on your next fire spell. And this can go up This can go up to 90%, believe it or not. It's absolutely ludicrous. And if you get that unlucky, it can be ludicrous. But yeah, it basically guarantees 3 crits eventually, and you can really stack it up with other mages in Classic and stuff like that. And if you're looking to pump DPS in, say, a boss that gives you more damage, so I'm thinking stuff like Nether Spite. If you tank the blue portal, you get a damage increase for your spells, so your crits are going to be, critting for a lot more, and you can almost guarantee yourself 3 crits with Combustion, that kind of thing. But in the latest iterations of Combustion, it is a spell where you'd pop it and you would just have a 100% crit chance on all of your fire spells. But what does make this spell special for me is the visual effect in the later iterations of it. Because you are a ball of fire. You are a literal ball of fire. Your character goes up in flames and you're just a walking flame at that point. It's absolutely ludicrous. Obviously, this can be spell stole and stuff like that, purged. But to be a giant flaming ball, I believe it was in Legion that this was brought in, this sort of iteration of Combust. But it just makes it look so amazing, and it really does fit Fire Mage perfectly, because obviously you're throwing out fire here, left, right, centre and stuff like that, but to just turn into this giant ball of fire and go absolutely crazy with your constant crits, your constant pyroblast being thrown out, it makes it look absolutely amazing, and it sits perfectly with the class itself. Starfall is something completely different from Combust. So Starfall is a druid spell, and it was brought into the game in Wrath of the Lich King as the last talent in the balance tree. And what it does is what it's always done. There's been a couple different iterations of it. So Starfall, within a certain radius around your character, it will call stars onto an enemy target just to deal damage. So initially, this was something that could really grief players, because what it would do was not distinguish what mobs were in combat and which mobs weren't in combat. So if you walked into a room with Starfall on and there was about 20 mobs around this entire room, you would pull all of them. It wouldn't hesitate to just go, oh, you clearly wanted to pull all of these mobs. Here, let me gather them for you. So it was a good fun one. But they've sort of, towards the later stages and later expansions, they've given it so that it prioritises targets that are in combat, obviously, because of the arse pulls that happened with this ability. And you've got a ring around around your character to see what radius it has. But there was one expansion where you would place the Starfall. So it would be something like a priest's dome, or say a Death Knight's anti-magic zone, or anything like that. It's a targeted location that you put it at. And that was a bit weird. It didn't feel right to me, in all honesty. It felt like I needed Starfall to follow me. Even if I did ask for about 200 mobs and going through. But that's all the fun of it, isn't it? Starfall was great because it fitted Boomkin, and it fitted the whole astral vibe that druids had when going balance. It was just amazing. I really love the spell. I love it in retail still, mainly because it's non-capped AoE, and it's just nice to see. It's a visually appealing spell to see happen. So Starfall definitely does get into my most fun abilities. Now, Dragon's Breath is another one. Dragon's Breath is my last one, probably. Again, another mage spell. I've noticed that all of the fun abilities have been spells. Wait, that's a ridiculous remark to say every single spell in WoW is a spell. They're all caster based, I'm pretty sure. None of them are actually melee. I guess Divine Toll is for a rep paladin, but it can also be used for holy and stuff. But yeah, I think they're all melee. They're all caster, sorry. So Dragon's Breath. Again, this one fits with the aesthetic of a fire mage. It was put into the game during TBC. It's the last talent for fire mages, and it works pretty much the same as it does now. It disorientates the target and does a little bit of damage to them. So it's not changed at all, I don't think, since its introduction in TBC. But it just fits fire so well because you're breathing fire onto this person. You've got to be within sort of melee distance of them, and you're breathing fire into them. Obviously, they're going to be a bit disorientated, blown back and stuff like that. And just the visual of the dragon head, like breathing fire at them, like from your character visually doing that and creating that sort of power makes it really sort of worthwhile. And that is what draws me to the ability more than anything, because I do a lot of PvP. Frost is generally the better PvP spec, but everything that Frost does aesthetically and just the way that it looks and stuff like that doesn't really capture me. Whereas Fire, it's very much in your face. It's very much you see what is happening. Everything is going crazy and stuff like that. It matches what Fire is. It is an absolute crazy sort of thing. You can't control it. So aesthetically, Dragon's Breath works so well with a fire mage that it just has to go in the most fun abilities that I've enjoyed throughout my time in WoW. All of these abilities, again, are kind of similar in terms of they are caster abilities, but they all have their own unique properties in as to why I enjoy them, and I'm sure many people enjoy them as well. I'm guessing I'm not the only one who likes Convoke the Spirits. Some people might hate it. I might like Ice Block. Some people might hate it as well. Druid forms, I absolutely adore them. Some people hate them. Some people hate switching forms and stuff like that. They just want to see their character that they've made. And I just don't get it. But again, this is my own opinion, so take it as you will. But Dragon's Breath has got to be on there just for the aesthetic and the way that it fits into Fire Mage so perfectly. Hi there, Warcraft fans. It's just me again. Wanted to thank you for your time in listening to this week's podcast. I love making these for you all, and I couldn't be happier in doing so. Seeing the downloads go up and up each week is amazing. You can show your support more by something as simple as rating this episode, or by dropping me a question via email that I can answer in a later podcast. To take it that extra step further and really show that you love the content that's being produced, you can check out the Pig and Whistle Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee page. Either of these would be a massive help to continue what I'm doing right now for you guys. Thank you all very much for your time, and go with Valor, friend.